Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Those of us doing international business, I'll say it, maybe speaking for myself and my 30 some odd years, 38 years, I think, of doing international work, especially in the early days, I felt very alone. I felt like I was the only person, even within a multinational, that was doing the work. Then I recognized that there were other people doing it, but we were so siloed that it was hard to connect up. And so I had to actually work on making sure that I was talking to people who, in parallel businesses, were doing what I was doing so we could learn from each other. And I've taken that kind of thought process to the world through Global Chamber generally, and more specifically to some of the activities that we do. We were thinking, and I had been thinking that, boy, wouldn't it be great, not only then, but now, to be able to tap into people who have different perspectives of what's going on. And before the recording, was speaking with Catherine Reed, who will be our first speaker, about the mainstream media and a lot of the things that we hear on a outside basis, is uh, glamorized, if that's the right word, or made to be much bigger than it is. Or tariffs right now obviously is a big story, but it's the only story, or it feels like it's the only story. And there's so many more stories, our own individual stories, and then stories of other successes and challenges that are going on. And so the purpose of today is to share some of those from different perspectives around the world. At the end of the day, just talking about good or bad stuff is maybe interesting, but really what our focus is what are the opportunities that are out there. So Global Chamber members are connecting with more people, are connecting with more opportunities, and certainly feeling better about what they're doing, and recognizing that none of us are alone. We're a global tribe, we're a global community, and there's always someone who can help and support. We don't have to do it alone. Catherine Reed is a leader based in Austria, and her expertise is the world. She also has a particular expertise in China and has been doing business and is well connected there for many years. The curated newsletter that she does, I just received it a few hours ago for this week. I think I might receive more than one a week, but it seems like it's just so full and rich of so many great stories. But they're the kind of stories I think that those of us doing global business love to hear. And that is like, what's really going on in some specific areas, and what are some of the opportunities? And yeah, there's challenges, and that's fine. We want to hear about those, the good, bad, and the ugly. But the stories that Catherine talks about and is involved with on a day-to-day basis are amazing. And so, Catherine, if you could kick off and talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there and any opportunities. It's always inspiring when you talk. And so we really appreciate you jumping in. And I know you can't stay for the whole hour, but I appreciate you taking some time here in the beginning, maybe just to ground us on how are you seeing the world? What are some of the things we should be thinking about? And are there opportunities maybe that aren't in the mainstream, but that are right there and that we should be aware of?
Thanks, Doug. I mean, it's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak at chamber events and to chat with other people and exchange with other professionals as to what's really going on. I mean, I think for me, one of the main things that I've been telling clients recently is that I know that tariffs at the moment are being used in an extreme form in lots of cases, but tariffs are not actually something new. And so I think that we do have to remember that even outside of the present political situation, then tariffs are something that as exporters that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, even between lots of countries that are quite well allied with one another. It doesn't mean that your particular product. And so I think that if you really want to um, deal with the situation and you're looking for opportunities, then first of all, as far as I'm concerned, it's that question of you need to know that you've got the relationships and that you are working solidly on those relationships. Because if something happens, like at the moment, if suddenly a tariff changes by 20%, 50%, even 100%, then you need to have a partner on the other side in whichever country you're working with that you can talk to, where you can discuss the two of you as to how you're going to manage it. And I think that, dealing with things, knowing really what are your numbers, and lots of exporters, they don't know the numbers on their products through to the end consumer. They have an X works price that they just you know give to anybody who asks, pretty much, but they don't necessarily know how even a 3% tariff change is actually going to impact the price of their products on the shelf, or the price of their products to whoever is the end consumer, depending on how it's sold. And I think that those 2 points taken together can give you quite a powerful view as to what opportunities that you have. And I mean, of course, you're always going to be evaluating how important a certain market is for you if you're the exporter, or, um, you know, if you're selling into a market, you're always going to be evaluating how important is it to me? Is it still worth doing business in that market? And if it's not, what do I need to do to pull out of that market? Or do I want to maintain a strategic presence in the market? And I think that you have to look at it from the overall perspective, but you have to start out by firstly knowing what your numbers are. And secondly, knowing, do I have a partner that I need to and want to support? Or is it a market that I'm actually not that fussed about anyway? And therefore I could just let it, you know, I could just put it on ice for a bit. And I think that at the end of the day, it's a very individual decision as to what constitutes an opportunity for a company and what is something that's going to stress them. Because if everybody in your niche, if everybody's buying in China, then everybody is affected by the same tariffs, pretty much. Or if everybody is buying something in Peru, then you are all affected by the same changes. But if you have options, then of course you have to weigh up all of those options and go through the numbers. And I think that being very transparent with people and over communicating is probably one of the best ways to get through in any kind of difficult situation. Also, if you have the kind of situation that I've had in the past, sometimes, for example, with Turkey or Lebanon or Kazakhstan, where the currency devalues very strongly and where you need to make changes because of that, it's a similar kind of effect, I would say. I don't know if you want to push me in a different direction there, Doug, or
Well, I think what I pulled from that was the importance of relationships, and then also reevaluating all the things that you're doing, given the latest and greatest things or worst things that are going on. So is that what we should take from it? I mean, one of the things that's so impressive about you, other than just your international capability, is when I see like your posts in LinkedIn and you're talking about some stuff you've done in China, the relationships you have there are very deep and very personal. That they relate to not just the work, but to food and the experiences you've had. So when I hear you talking about relationships, I hear and I relate to what you've done and what I know has been satisfying for me. Those kinds of relationships, when you're able to do them, are very special. They can sometimes cloud the right business decision. You can have relationships with someone so special that it blinds you from what you really should be doing, from the optimum business perspective. So that's, I, so the two things that I pulled from the relationships and evaluating what's the latest for business sometimes are in conflict, but certainly understand the importance of both.
Yeah, and I think you have to also look at what are your short-term tactics versus what is your long-term strategy for a particular market. I mean, you can have the best relationship and the deepest friendship with somebody, but if their market is simply not viable for you anymore economically, be that as somewhere that you're purchasing from or that you're selling to, then at some point you're going to have to, have that very open conversation and make a change, aren't you? To pivot either to somewhere that you can sell at a profit or somewhere that you can buy at a price that you can then resell profitably. So I think the main thing, though, in that kind of situation is to actually know whether the numbers work out or not, and to be able to have that kind of transparent conversation without burning any bridges. And I think that that's very important because you can lay something on ice or you can keep something on a very minimal level, maybe without pushing it. It doesn't mean you might decide you don't want to put any marketing investment into a sales market, for example, but that you don't want to pull out of the market because going from a standing start is very, very difficult if you need to go into somewhere once again at a later point.
Yeah, are there, kind of looking at the landscape, and again, for all of you, if you haven't subscribed to Catherine Reed's newsletter, hopefully, Catherine, before this is over, you can share that with folks. It's definitely
Of
something
course,
everybody
be
should
happy to.
be seeing every week. Are from your research, from your own work, are there shifts that you're making that based on the geopolitics, based on the opportunities and growth, countries like Saudi Arabia that you may not have historically been so involved with. There's so many amazing things going on there. So are you finding yourself pivoting, or are you finding that maybe suggesting some of your clients should be pivoting to different opportunities?
Certainly for some of my clients, I mean, certainly in the food and beverage space, which is where I do a lot of my work, then the Middle East as a region is certainly having a kind of boom era right now. So that is definitely a space that's very, very open. But I would say that I'm also seeing a lot of potential in Southeast Asia. I'm seeing a lot of growth in Southeast Asia with clients, with companies that are, especially the Europeans, are in a relatively reasonable situation as far as selling to Asia is concerned, because we can use the moment, as it were, to maybe undercut some of our American colleagues a little bit. So I think that there are opportunities. There are still a lot of opportunities in China. JD.com has just announced that they want to introduce 1,000 new companies who are legacy companies, so over 100 years old, in the next 3 years into the Chinese market. And I'm not quite sure, what the further details of that are, but there are certainly some interesting projects going on if you have your feelers out around the world.
Got it. Um, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions that folks might have for Catherine. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions? And while you're coming to the mic, one question I do have relates to something you said, and just to get it out onto the floor, the concept of undercutting, your American friends. Tell us, what's your perspective of what the reality of that means? Like, where are those opportunities happening? And could you articulate it in words that are non-sensational, media sensational?
I mean, realistically speaking, it's it's an artificial undercutting, I would say, of American companies, because if the only difference are the tariffs that are being imposed by the US, and therefore countries are imposing tit for tat tariffs in return on US companies who are looking to sell into Southeast Asia or into um, whichever region it is, then if the tariffs on European companies are lower, it just gives a price advantage,
I see.
And I think
Okay.
that that isn't something, it's not necessarily something that um, European companies are looking to suddenly cut their prices, not at all, because I think they're under a lot of price pressure and profitability pressure at the moment. But I do think that there are certain opportunities simply because American companies are being hit by tariffs, and because at the end of the day, it's the consumers who pay those. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay. No, that helps a lot. I made some wrong assumptions and when you said that. So that's just very practical business. That's great. I don't see anybody who's unmuted. Does anybody have any questions? Any thoughts? I Basil, I saw that you laughed and smiled, so that's good. We like to have you smiling. That's a good sign. Uh, so
Business is a game, right?
it's a game. That's fair. It is, and it can be a fun game, and it generally is. So and what I liked, Catherine, one of the aspects of what you said is that reevaluation of where I should go. When you do that for yourself and for your own activities and for your own clients, how often does that get done? In some of these hot markets, it probably happens fairly frequently.
Yeah. And I think though that it's easy for companies to get so tied up in the day to day that they lose sight of the fact that they probably, at least their marginal markets, if you're dealing in a lot of small markets where you're happy to be there because it means that you've got a presence on the ground, and corporate headquarters had this map with all of the little flags in it and so on. I think that for any markets which are an edge case for you in terms of profitability, that you should be looking at those on a 6 monthly basis if you can. Probably more often than that, it isn't realistically worth it, but you should be looking at all of your markets on an annual basis to check that you really have the full picture of what the numbers look like. Too many people have no idea.
Fair. Um, Francis, I think you've got a question or a comment.
Yeah, I do. Catherine, thanks for providing your insights. Um, I, I serve small, medium-sized businesses, mostly here in the United States. And the experience that I'm hearing is unlike, larger corporations that can strategically manage and reconfigure their supply chain. They've got the volume and the purchasing power to mitigate to some degree the tariff impacts that we're starting to see. Really, a lot of the tariff news is news, but when it comes down to the actual impact, with the delays and everything and uncertainty, it hasn't hit everybody yet as much as I think we all think it did. So here's my question. For small and medium-sized businesses that don't have that leverage of volume, what kinds of things can they do to mitigate the tariff environment that we face. I've got one client who does import aluminum, but he's trying to nearshore aluminum, for example, but he just doesn't have the volume. And companies don't really say, hey, if you don't purchase at least $1 million from us, we're not interested in your order.
Yeah. I mean, honestly speaking, it's tough in those kind of situations. On the other hand, a smaller company has at least got that higher level of agility compared to a lot of larger corporations who tend to take a lot more, let's say, who tend to need more time to turn the container ship, as it were, because they're just so big and unwieldy. And I think that the problem with nearshoring in lots of cases, or the problem with moving supply chains out of China, is simply that there's no second China to replace China, not at the drop of a hat. There are countries like India where if you have a longer ramp up time, then potentially you can replace a large amount. But even if you look, I mean, Apple is talking at producing what, 15% of iPhones in India by the end of this year. And they've been talking for the last 3 or 4 years about a China plus one production policy. And it's only this year that they're going to get really into double figures as far as their world production capacity is concerned. And I'm sure that once they start, that they can actually scale that much more quickly. But it really isn't that easy to do. It's easy to talk about having a nearshoring policy and to move your components into Mexico, but if your raw materials are not available in Mexico, you're still dependent on that long tail supply chain that's coming from somewhere else. And I think for a lot of companies, it looks like they might be able to move their supply chains, but actually it's a very, very long-term process to be able to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, Catherine. One of the things that I try to emphasize is control what you can control, and look into your internal costs that might give you some way to offset some of the price increases. The other thing is, utilizing a lot of my clients worry about cash flow, right? And bonded warehouses, a lot of them actually acquired inventory early before the tariffs actually went into effect, and they've got inventory carrying costs, but they haven't paid the tariff because it's sitting in a bonded warehouse. And there's a plus and minuses to that. But that's been some short-term strategies that's at least one of my clients have kind of pursued. So any thoughts regarding that kind of thing?
No, I mean, I think you can do that. You can play with, of course, you can play with payment terms. You can play around with all of those commercial terms and try to move things. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you know what your numbers are, then you're in a much better position to decide, to do your scenario planning and to say what is really that point of pain that I can't go beyond. So that if there's a change beyond that level, I know that I have to either stop producing that product. Maybe I even have to consider, let's say, a complete portfolio analysis as to which of my products are actually profitable at the moment. And maybe I can't nearshore all of them, but maybe I can bring in the ones that are problematic in terms of margins, that I can do something there. Maybe those are my hero products where I've got maybe lower margins but bigger volumes where I can actually have a bit more leverage. And I think that those, you have to look at it in a holistic way, and to go through every possible step of your operations in the business. And I think for a lot of small companies, that just sounds like a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of boring stuff, isn't it? Going through the numbers and literally counting the nuts and bolts and going through the processes and um, seeing what you can streamline. They're basic facts, but they're things that um, you need to do if you want to try and cut the fat out of your operations. And that's nothing to do with tariffs. That's just a normal operations procedure as to, are you actually operating proficiently or not? And I think
Uh,
that a lot of companies, they go on a lot of gut feel, especially smaller ones which are founder led.
Yeah, I totally
it
agree with
really,
you, Catherine.
hey, Francis.
Data-driven cost accounting is something that I try to promote, and diving into the numbers to know what the cost of each SKU is and the components. So thank you, Catherine.
One of the great skills, Francis, that you have is that. And so, and you really bring up a great point, Catherine. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to need to keep moving so that we have enough time to finish by the end of the hour. I wanted to make sure that everybody got to meet Catherine and understand some of her perspectives. The next 30 minutes, we're going to be more fast paced and going to have hopefully all of you that are here be able to speak. Anybody who would like to speak. Also, we have a couple different spotlights that we'd like to do. Catherine, anything else in final conclusion that you'd like to share?
No, really, I think that it's that question of the situation is pretty volatile. And so you just have to literally keep your finger on the pulse for your particular markets and to be prepared to do the boring grunt work of going through everything and making sure that you're actually not missing something where you could save some money or increase your profit margins and so on. I think you have to know the numbers. And again, don't be afraid to reach out to, maybe you've got suppliers who would be willing to share part of those costs with you, but you've got to talk to them and you've got to have that relationship up front. It's no good trying to build it now when you actually want something from them.
You're not boring. It's an essential work. And Francis, you're not boring either. That is essential work. It needs to be done. Some of us don't like it as much as other folks. We're more on the growth side, on the fun growth side. You're on the essential growth side, which is like, what's the reality? So thank you very much for sharing, and we'll all be in touch. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
One of the other kind of nuts and bolts topics that's important that it would be great to get an update on is currency. And I think I saw a comment in the field, or in the comment field. I lost my, here it is. Let's see. I think it was Guy. Guy, are you still there? And from a currency perspective, Convera is right in the heart of that. Are you open to just sharing a couple minutes on what's happening in currency markets, and is there some things that we should know about?
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, Doug. I think that businesses are really looking to manage their FX exposure risk more than they ever have before, with all volatility in the currency markets. So I worked at American Express for 25 years. I'm now at a company called Convera. Back then, my customers, 25% of my customers used to hedge their foreign currency. So they had a hedging strategy to fix their exchange rates. These days, it's around about 75, 80%. So if companies are trading internationally, then they certainly need to speak to someone about how they protect their margins. So that's the big thing that we're seeing now with all types of businesses, especially if you're trading, with exotic currencies, which are a little bit more volatile, and obviously the dollar with Trump and everything that's going on over there.
Are there any macro trends that we should be aware of?
There's probably people better than me to speak about that, Doug, honestly. I just think really that whatever currency pair you're looking at, you need to be trying to work out, what's your budget rate, where have you got to, what are you happy with in terms of your margins, and making sure that you're protecting that. But macro trends, I'm not so aware of.
Got it. Well, as far as Convera, why would people tap into what you're doing, and how do they tap in?
Well, Convera, we are formerly a part of Western Union Bank. So we help businesses do two things, really. We're one of the largest B2B payment suppliers globally. So we help companies actually make the payment in the first place. So if you're sending currency from A to B, you want to make sure it's getting there in the time that you want it to, and the full amount of money is getting there also, which sounds really basic and straightforward, but sometimes it can be quite difficult. So we have a global reach that allows us to do that really well. And then we help businesses create a hedging strategy and protect their margins. And that is another element of how we kind of differentiate ourselves across all the different banks and brokers that offer these services. So if anyone wants to reach out and talk about that type of thing, then I've put my LinkedIn link on the chat. So very welcome to have a conversation, see how we might be able to help you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Stephen Wilson knows a little bit about currency as well. Stephen, are you able to say hi and give any perspective that you're seeing out there?
Of course, yeah. Of course. So I work at Equals Money. My actual focus is on expense management. I also help. I'm actually kind of dabbling in the world of BaaS and PaaS, so that B2B2B element. So we help other businesses actually utilize our services. Front label. Basically a white label of our system. We enable them to service their clients through cards and payments. My area is cards, so I'm a bit of a chocolate teapot at the moment, so I'm a bit useless, and I wouldn't want to misadvise. Fortunately, we have, and that's probably the best thing about us, you have people you can speak to who actually know what they're talking about. But yeah, so I can't offer too much wisdom, unfortunately, Doug, outside of that. But cards, I could bore you all with cards all day.
Yeah, that sounds like an overriding trend, that there's more and more companies that are utilizing those to control expenses. Back to that boring thing about controlling expenses and doing the right thing for the business.
Of course, yeah, but it's the same thing actually. Same as Convera. Actually, we're seeing a lot. It's the same. Well, I've been at the company 9 years, and we definitely seen such a hungry appetite for forward contracts. Most of the clients I speak to are locking in their rates. Most are, especially with since Trump's got in power. Everything's a little bit volatile at the moment. So yeah, I've definitely seen a big uptick from my side with that.
Fantastic. Any questions for some of the currency experts that we have in the room? Any additional thoughts? Thank you very much. A lot of volatility, and thank you for sharing a bit about what's going on. Let's now go to Yemen, and Amr Abdul Salam Al-Makhalfi is our executive director for SANA and covering the country of Yemen. He's here to share some of the opportunities there. We've recently, in fact, yesterday, we had a UAE-Canada conversation, and a week or two ago, we had, I thought, a spectacular conversation on Oman. And I think I found it spectacular because I didn't know much about Oman, and I was just kind of blown away by what the opportunities are. In the case of Amr Abdul, he knows all about Yemen. And tell us a little bit more about what's going on and what we should know about in terms of opportunities. Thank you for coming in today.
Not at all. Really, you see, we have got any opportunities, particularly if we talk about coffee.
Are you able to turn on your camera?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
It's not willing. Yeah, you can hear me well. Okay, never mind.
Oh,
Indeed,
we can hear you, but
Yemen
okay.
is they have got هي ما يشوف الواحد هو شو ما مش مشكلة. Okay, let's go at time. Now really we have got many opportunities in Yemen, particularly in coffee. Coffee is the most important and the most profitable in Yemen. If you go back to coffee, the coffee, even we don't have we don't have enough amount of coffee. We have to explain how to increase our how we can increase our market in the field of coffee. Coffee is well known, and it's saleable in Yemen, not only Yemen, if you go, to Canada, to Saudi Arabia, to other countries, The Yemen coffee is the most important and the most, I can say, it's very, very intense, very well, known, all over the world. Mochawa is the we can say the mocha. They are sold, in Saudi Arabia, also in Canada, in UK, in USA, all over the country. For that reason, we don't have enough now, we don't have, enough amount, of cover. So we are trying our best, how to increase, our market, in this field. As I have told you before, it's very precious, amount, if we try, to increase, our market, in this field, that will be very great, and it will also bring for us, a lot of hard currency, like UK, USA, anywhere. Anyhow, we are using these amounts, at small amounts. The second thing is, as I have told you, Yemen, we are also trying, our best, how to increase our, how to increase our production in the field of agricultural business. Because agriculture is the most important thing, and most of the Yemenis are really known, for their interest, in agriculture. So we have also to increase, our we have to increase our products, in this field very much. That's why, we are trying, to increase in this amounts. Currently, our investment, it's not so bad, but the country, as I have told you, we have now, suffering a little bit, from these problems, in the field of wars and all these things. And we will try our best. Once, we solve these current problems, we are suffering from, in these countries, we will be able to really, make our products, much better, and production, our production will be more and more. What we are increasing, that's why we are trying this, but we are also highly interested, in natural juice production, like, beverage. Most of them, are not, we are our beverages, are mostly taking, from China, as I have told you. Even though the prices are getting, a little bit higher due to the tariffs, but we are also, trying to increase our, in the field of beverage and food. It's good country, Now, if we go, to Saudi, if we go to China. China is the most important, you see, market, you see, in the field of beverage and all these beverages. Even though now we are trying, you see, to increase our market in Saudi Arabia and also United Arab Emirates, but we are now increasing and focusing, you see, our field, you see, in the field of beverage and food in China. China really
Okay.
is well known. Yeah. Also, regarding, you see, now we are logistics, you see, and transport. Even though the transport, you see, is not so now, as I have told you, our country, you see, is highly, you see, really, you see, due to as I have told you, these wars, we are suffering, you see, many problems, you see, from this. Once, as I have told you, we resolve all these problems, we will be able, you see, to increase our products in the field of logistics and in the field of economic ecotourism. Tourism, it's well known, you see, and we had, you see, we had productive, we had, you see, profitable, you see, business in the field of ecosystems, but now it has really, you see, it increased, you see, and it has shrinked, you see, too much due to the unavailability, you see, of the of the business in this field. But we will try our best, you see, how to revive our opportunities in the field of tourism in this country, so that we will be in a position, you see, once I can say the most important, you see, problem we are suffering from, as I have told you, the problems we are suffering, and also, you see, the wars and all these things. But if we try, you see, to concentrate on Aden is a part, you see, of the country, you know, even though, you see, it has, they are also suffering, but this, we will try now, you see, how to revive and to increase our products in all these fields. Yemen, even though, you see, they don't have, you see, good opportunities, you see, but we will do whatever we can in the field, you see, particularly, you see, in the field of ecosystem, as well as agricultural business. All this has been affected, you see, too much, you see, by as I have told you, but this will increase now. We are trying now to shift our business, you see, in Saudi Arabia, in other countries where we can really, you see, revive our profitability in the field of this. Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, these are the countries where we can consider, we can focus on these kinds. But
okay.
Even though we are trying, you see, to do our best, you see, how to increase, but we will do our best now. I think that even though we are suffering, you see, a lot from these problems and the wars, but I think that everything will be much better, you see, in the future. We are suffering. I think that the country is going, you see, now they are trying to solve these problems, which are really known, you see, in the country. And you know very well, you see, the country, you see, has been divided into two. So Sana'a, and the other thing, you see, Aden. Really, Aden, even though, you see, they have been, they don't have many problems there, but we don't have, you see, you see, these problems, you see, suffering a lot. We will do whatever we can how to solve these problems in the future, and how we can get there. Yeah. So that will be very good, as I think, you see, if we try, you see, to solve all these problems we are suffering, you see, so that we can concentrate, you see, our, you see, business, and at the same time in the field of agriculture, ecosystem. We had the ecosystem. Tourism was the most important, you see, I can say, sector, you see, in the country, even though now it has been severely affected, you see, by this. You know that, particularly if you go to Socotra. Socotra is well known, you see, and it is it's near Aden, where you see the people are very happy and they will be highly interested, you see, but we will do whatever we can, even though we are suffering. Now we are
Thank
suffering
you.
also. Yeah, not at all. I hope everything is going well, you see.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. We only have about 10 minutes, so I do need to shift over so we can do kind of a lightning round for members who have news or other perspectives they'd like to share. Who would like to share next, please? And we'll just kind of do a little bit of a lightning round. Casey, I see you are unmuted. Casey Branch is the world's expert on the cannabis and alcohol markets. It's a rare pleasure to see Casey in the room. What's going on in your world? Oh, are you there, Casey? I thought I saw it moving, but maybe not. So if you can speak, please go ahead. And if you can't, that's fine. He might have taken a call. Who else would like to chat? Anybody else have anything to share?
I have something. Good morning. Good morning.
Demetrius, how are you?
Well, we're hanging in. Everybody, happy Friday. It's Friday for me. I know it's probably a different day for everyone else. I did want to just share my screen, just a very quick update on something that I'm following legally. I should introduce myself. I'm attorney Demetrius Evans. I am the proud chair of Global Chamber Chicago board, but I am going to share. Let me see if I can get over. Okay, so on the legal front, this is the case that, can everybody see this? This is the case we're watching right here, right? VOS Selections Incorporated versus the United States. And here's what happened on May 28th. The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled that the Liberation Day tariffs exceeded presidential authority under these, superpowers. And however, they then vacated all of those reciprocal worldwide tariffs and enacted an executive order 14257. And then on May 29th, the next day after the ruling, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit issued a stay of their judgment and said that the tariffs are going to remain in effect while the appeal is being considered. And then just recently here, the Federal Circuit heard oral arguments on appeal, and an 11-judge panel, which is a lot, pretty unusual, but the 11-judge panel questioned whether the government's interpretation of unusual and extraordinary threat is going to stand. So now we are waiting for the court to issue its opinion, and I'm on pins and needles about this, and we'll provide more of an update when we know. Wow.
Okay. That sounds kind of big. I don't know.
Pretty big. We were under these it's called the IEEPA. It's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and that is the reason why all these laws were able to go into effect. But we're waiting to see if it will stand.
Fantastic. As far as I know, the United States doesn't have a king, and sometimes the government overreaches, and it's great to have a legal system that hopefully is fair and does the right thing. Thank you, Demetrius. I know you also have, for Global Chamber Chicago, a big event coming up at the BMO Tower.
That is right, on the 24th. If you are in Chicago, please do come on over. We will, it's already up. It's already up on the GC page. And we are thinking about how we can do something virtual. So stay tuned with that.
Yeah, I think it's Thursday, or it's Tuesday, the 26th of.
Well, let me make sure I have it right in my calendar. Thank you.
and so but I could be wrong, and it's at BMO Bank in Chicago, their tower downtown. And we did a summer event last summer with Demetris, and it was amazing, and I expect it to be amazing. It also has Margot Markopoulos as the keynote speaker. She's the head of international trade for the state of Illinois, and so we'll have other speakers, but Margot is always great. Thank you, Demetris. Does anybody else have anything to share before we close the room? Eduardo, thank you for joining. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Doug, I was just going to say it's getting late on a Friday afternoon, and Demetris has given me a little bit more of a spring in my step with her positive outlook and energy. So that's just my adding point.
That's the way Demetris is. I don't know all of our leaders around the world in person, but Demetris is one that I've met in person, and she's even better in person. She's not just capable, but she's just a ball of positive energy, and sometimes we need that. In fact, we always need that.
We need it now.
We need that this afternoon in the UK for sure.
Well, it's summertime. Why is it so hard? Is it raining or something?
Maybe it's just me, Doug. Maybe it's just me.
Okay.
It's pretty grim here in England. I can agree with you guys.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
You guys, it's funny from an American perspective and Europeans in general, and of course, folks in the UK with all the vacation time. This time of year, Americans, at least this American, gets like, oh my God, it's like people. I just had an email from someone. Oh, I'm back in September. It's like, what? Back in September? Oh my God! If I take a day off, I feel guilty. So.
Well, they're doing that in Europe. In France, everyone I speak to in France is off until September.
Okay.
I've got no time booked off, but everyone else has got 3 or 4 weeks if you're going that part of the world, which is nice to do if you can do it. I think they've got it right.
Yeah,
I work with a major university, and they're either striking or on annual leave. They've got the best time, honestly. Absolutely
really
amazing out there. Yeah.
they can take some time off. So, but those of us that do global business, it's hard to take time off because it's so much fun. So that there's that other angle. So thank you for sharing, and thanks for giving Demetris the kudos that she well deserves. She is amazing. And anything else from anyone? Because we're getting close to the bewitching hour here. Thanks, Mohammed, for joining, and Terry and Amr Abdul, thank you for sharing on Yemen. Really appreciate it. Mangwi, thank you for joining today. Really appreciate it. Casey, you unmuted yourself, so I'm going to guess you're on a call. So again, Casey is extraordinary. He's on the advisory board for I think the San Francisco chapter, living in California, but traveling the world. He did a podcast for us from Paris Olympics last summer that's just off the charts. His connections into hospitality and cannabis and alcohol, which I guess they all go together, is unparalleled. Eduardo Gonzalez is our advisory board chair for Phoenix. There's a big event in Phoenix, one of our signature events that we're working on for the UK, Women in Global Leadership. The next one is the 9th annual one for the Phoenix chapter on Thursday. I think it's going to be a virtual component as well. We haven't worked out all the details, but we hope to have that all worked out by Monday. But if you're in Phoenix, of course, definitely attend some extraordinary leaders. And that's also very inspirational. Mohammed, do you have a last word you'd like to make?
Thank you again for this opportunity. My mind stayed with what Catherine has said, which was that you need to be aware what's going on in each corner of the world. So when I am almost a middle-aged man, so when I think that when you used to trade before, you are worrying about your city, the city next to you, but now you need to have a global awareness of what you have to be aware of when you are in business of trade. So it was amazing. Thank you very much, Doug, again for this opportunity. And thank you all for this meeting. Thank you very much. I just wanted to add this.
Thank you very much. Mohammed Omar is based in Turkey, but he's an expert on Kirkuk, Iraq, and he's our global advisor for Kirkuk because of coming from there and being involved with all sorts of business opportunities there. And so if that is of interest to you, definitely connect up with Mohammed. Just a very kind and wonderful person. Thank you for being involved with Global Chamber. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's the end of the hour. I don't see anybody else unmuting, but everybody in the room is amazing. I really appreciate all of you being here. Let's finish up the day in the UK on a positive note. Let's now start the day here on the West Coast of the US and have a great Friday and a great weekend. Stay dry, enjoy the sun, and thank you for being global and unstoppable. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Doug. Cheers all.
Thank you all. See ya.
Cheers.